Right, here we go. Right, well, it's another Sunday night, which means it's podcast night, and we're up to episode 25 this evening. So I'll just a little bit more ukulele, just play us in, and then we'll do our normal welcome. Right, good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Very special. Nicholas is beaming live from the Blackpool Football Club, whatever it is, suite that you are currently in, Nicholas. You need to tell us all about this.
It's Blackpool Football Club's hotel that is connected to the stadium. You know, quite a few football clubs and athletic stadiums and various other people have done this now in order to make their business flourish for more than just one day a week. And we're in the Bloomfield suite, which is, yeah, it's all right. You know, it works out equivalent of 80 quid, but you get 2 rooms and then you get connecting lounge area in between. So in terms of what you pay for a Premier Inn at this time of year in Blackpool, it's all right, it's nice. We've got Fred Pickering behind me here. Now, Fred Pickering scored a hat-trick, which sent Preston North End down and kept Blackpool up in about 1953, supposedly. I'm sorry, I didn't quite know who Fred Pickering was. There's an original signature on his photograph there.
Ronnie Pickering's dad, is it?
Yeah, I've just Googled him. But anyway, it seems that within these parts, he was quite infamous by sending Preston North End down and kept Blackpool.
Because that's when, of course,
but obviously, Blackpool's most famous footballer was
Stanley Matthews.
Yeah, there we are. And for a while, Tangerines were actually in the Premier League or the old First Division, weren't they?
Yeah. Back in the 50s, they were 60s. Yeah, they were a big team.
No, they were in 80s and 90s, weren't they? Yeah. So, no, it's all right. Yeah, we're looking out the window. We ain't got a view of the pitch, although the executive rooms, you're looking pitch side here. But it seems a bit of a problem. You're booking those on a match day because you're not allowed to get into your room until the game is actually finished. But we're actually looking from outside the stadium. So in the distance, I can see the big one at the Pleasure Beach. So Jackie and I might have a quick walk down to the Velvet Coaster so I can tick another Wetherspoons off, because the Velvet Coast is supposed to be quite good Wetherspoons down there. We've just come down the strip, the illuminations. In fact, the one near the tower has been evacuated because the fire alarm was going off. So they were all stood outside that one. But maybe I'll walk down to the Velvet Coaster in a bit.
Well, I'm come to the splendour of my attic, and Bruce is in his dining room, so we're stuck in the normal way, aren't we? So now, Nicholas, you're drinking something interesting, well, aren't you?
Yeah, we've stopped off in a chef and brewer for something to eat, and sadly, once again, chef and brewer, national train, what Michelin butchers, aren't they? Walked in, there was 4 hand pumps on the bar. 2 out of 4 clips were turned around. So the other clips that were showing were Green King IPA and Speckled Golden Hen, the old Morehouse. Is it More?
More.
Speckled Hen.
Yeah.
Moreland, is it? Or Morehouse, yeah.
Moreland. Yeah.
Moreland.
Yeah. So I had a pint to start off with, and then I said, I'll have a pint of Green King IPA. Oh, no, so we ain't got that. So they had 1 beer on. Fortunately, because Chef and Brew accept the camera discount, I got 10% off. So instead of it costing me £4.10, it was costing me £3.56 a pint. So that's a big tip out there. If you are a camera member, you go to Chef and Brew pub, you get 10% off your beers, which brings it down to quite a reasonable price actually compared to a lot of these other sort of eating sort of chain pub places. So the beer itself was all right, but once again, bit disappointing that there was only one selection. But anyway, we've come down to the Blackpool FC stadium here, gone to their bar, which is called the Corner Post, and they have on, see if I can bring my glass in here, a beer by what's it called? Farmyard Ales. Now, Farmyard Ales seem to be a craft brewer based just outside Lancaster, and this is a Seasider's Way, and they call it a lager ale hybrid of 4.1%, £4.50. It's a lager, I suppose. Yeah, it's got a little bit of taste to it. It's just that word hybrid at the end.
Well, I
It
reckon
makes me think
it's for
about
watching football, isn't it?
genetically modifications and stuff like that, and they start calling stuff hybrid. But anyway, there we are.
Yeah, they claim it's the perfect beer for watching football. And it was the bar busy? What's it like, that bar at the football ground then?
No, there was a couple of ladies having something to eat, and then there were just a couple of the people in there.
So
So
you kind of set back a couple of blocks off the front, aren't you, of the football club?
yes, yeah.
Kind of in
No, I
the
dare
wall.
say, yeah, because I didn't venture too far into the room. We're going to go in there for our breakfast in the morning. I would imagine that we'll have a view over the pitch, thinking where it's actually on one of the sort of corners of the stadium. So that might be quite nice to have breakfast and overlook the pitch. But tonight, obviously, it's
black
pitch
pudding
black.
with your breakfast there.
Black pudding.
Black pudding. And I know, Bruce, you've been off to Nares this afternoon, and you've sent me a very nice picture of a very cosy looking.
Oh yes.
What's that put with Cross Keys?
Cross Keys was fantastic. Yeah. The beer was in splendid form. Silver
very
King,
nice.
£3.35 a pint there, fantastic pint. And you got a camera discount there as well, so we did £3, 3p for a pint of Silver King, which is bonkers.
Are you drinking tonight, Bruce?
No, because unfortunately after Thursday's shenanigans, which the repercussions are still raging about that, unfortunately.
We're going to come back to that in a minute. Bruce's trip.
Bruce has been drinking every night, so to have one night off might be a wise thing, actually.
Yeah, well, sadly, I suppose in 25 episodes, irresponsible drinking has never really been a factor until this week, sadly.
Well, let's be honest, Bruce. For the first 10 or so, you were that badly from COVID. You didn't drink anything for the first 10, and then when you did, you couldn't taste it.
To say he's a family man with young kids, he goes out and drinks more than the rest of us.
Well, I'm keeping it the football thing because I must admit I had a few last night, I had a few on Friday night, so I'm just keeping it fairly low today. So it was my Thornbridge box arrived on Friday, and this is called 1857. So have you guys got any idea what the link is with football, Thornbridge, 1857? Well,
where Thornbridge is based, is it? It must be a Derbyshire Football Club centenary, is it?
No, you're getting a bit closer to. Need to go a bit further north.
FA Cup. When was it? FA Cup started?
No.
Sheffield Football Club centenary.
Sheffield Football Club, Sheffield Football Club, which actually are the world's oldest football club. And in fact, obviously 1857 when they were formed, and the FA, so my sports history coming out now, the FA of course wasn't formed until 1863. And in fact, for the first few years, a lot of clubs played by the Sheffield rules. And actually, before the FA rules in 1863, the Sheffield rules and the Cambridge rules were the two rules that you played for. Well, so they're still going on.
Weren't they a cricket team first and then played?
No, that was Wednesday. That was Sheffield Wednesday. That's a different story. Right. That's a different. We'll do that when we do our Sheffield here. So it's very nice. It's a pale ale, 4.8%. So it's actually quite nice, actually. This month's box is bonkers. They're all 8, 9, 12%ers. So this is the one light one that they've got. So there we go. So we'll crack on with Bay highlights then. The focus of this week is actually been Macclesfield, because I think I mentioned a couple of podcasts ago, I was setting off to the Macclesfield Food Festival, which was very lately, well, it had already been cancelled once, and then unfortunately was cancelled again. So it was one of those almost on the hoof with me and my wife, and we had actually a very lovely afternoon in Macclesfield. So I'm going to share a couple of the micro bars. So it might not be up Nick Street per se, but we'll do that. So Beery highlights, just then I'll kick off. I managed to get back to Mellard, one of my local bars, on Friday. I haven't been there for a while, actually. And again, I was trying to trump you with your beer prices. So look at that. They were selling Oakham Citra at £3 a pint.
Wow.
Which was on very good form. They've just moved to having 3. They normally only, in the past, only had 1 cask on and about 8 or 9 kegs. And they've actually, this week on Facebook, I noticed, that's one reason why I went, that they said we're going to try and push 3 casks out now every week before Christmas. So they had Oakham Citra on, they had North Brewing Co.'s Seasons Reverse, which was more of a traditional kind of bitter. And they also had a Pentridge Brewery Little Fury, which again was another type Citra blonde. So even that was £3.30 a pint. So that was very nice. And then last night we were in one of our local pubs in one of our local villages to see Sack and Crack, which is a very good little 3-piece Irish band. And it was a Jowls' pub, which you mentioned a few times as well. And again, I've gone off a little bit their beer, really. I used to quite like their blonde beer. But last night they had Moon Madness on, which is their autumnal. And I've got to say, it was very, very nice. It was only 4 points, well, as it says the pamphlet there, 4.666%. But it was a twisted blend of malts, a darkish ale, quite treacly, but it was really good form last night. And in fact, they said everybody's drinking this night. It was really, really good. So that was quite a nice Saturday night and some very good Irish music. So and they're at a pub every Saturday, so we might go and we might follow them around a couple of places. So Bruce, come on,
I'll tell you what, Mike.
In
a way, I'm pleased with my lads because I reckon that's showing that people want cask rather than all this fancy craft bloody keg stuff.
Yeah.
Because my lads really were the couple of times that you were taking me in there.
Yeah.
It was always on keg, and it was like, well, do I really want a bloody pineapple marshmallow flavored beer?
Yeah. Well, some people
the fact that they themselves are now saying, right, we're going to put more cask pumps on, proper Allen pumps, serving proper pints of beer at that price. I like to say, they're listening to what the customers want. They're realising the customers actually want cask rather than craft beer.
Although I think something to do with supply, because I didn't notice actually. The vast few places I've been, there's been a very limited keg offer at the moment. So I don't know whether there's a shortage of keg beer or shortage of barrels perhaps. And of course there is a shortage of CO2, isn't there? And of course, for keg beers, you have to force
barrels. Barrels ain't an issue as such.
No, but carbon dioxide,
aluminium as well, isn't it? For
Anyway, come on, Bruce. Tell us about
but cask and keg beer.
All right. Come on, time out. We haven't got time. Come on, Bruce. Come on then. This debauchery drinking in London.
Well, yes.
You mentioned last week that you were going to nip to London. You talked about going to some lovely Victorian, gin palaces, and you end up in the bloody Savoy in the American bar, getting absolutely soaked, didn't you?
Yeah, sadly, I feel I feel I won't be welcome back in the American bar even more. Sadly, I think it could be once in a lifetime. Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to go to the Shepherd Market. We had a bottomless brunch to take at the Hard Rock Hotel at Marble Arch. We were going to go to the Old Chester Jesus Skygan and then try and drop in the American bar. So we got there on the train, went to Green Park. Shepherd Market, one of those places I'd never heard of before.
You've sent me these, yeah, you've sent me a couple of pictures there.
Absolutely fantastic. Come out Green Park Tube Station, you walk about 4 minutes, come out the entrance near the Ritz, turn right, walk 4 streets down, go down a little street, come alley called White Horse Street, and as you turn the corner, this fantastic little Victorian square opens in front of you. Pubs, restaurants, old-fashioned newsagents, post office, absolutely out of this world. The day before we went, we did have a look down because, of course, in Mayfair, just to have a feel for the place and have a sort of a community website. And we were sort of saying that this year the Christmas lights in the little square are being turned on by Dame Joan Collins. Last year, John Cleese turned them on, and the year before that, Elizabeth Hurley turned them on, which gives you some idea the type people use it. It was a cracking little place. Hidden gem, I'd never heard of it, definitely. It's so central, hidden away. It acts this little community hub for Mayfair, and it's famous for its Victorian pubs. There are 4 there. We got into 2. Grapes, the most famous of them, was really quite lovely. Again, it was from the beer shortage. I'm happy about this, very proud of it. But real fire, loads of people bobbing in there over lunchtime. And then from there, we went to the King's Head, which you can see inside. Well, the King's Head is actually Green King Pub, but as you can see, they've pretty much kept it untouched. Had a good selection of rail ales, and I'd say about 5 or 6 rail ales on. We'd taken the decision before this. Obviously, we knew we were going to a bottomless brunch, been away on. So I did have a couple of pints of Amstel in the grapes because it was only Boom Bar on. And then the King's Head, I had a pint of something called Portobello London Pills, which was very nice. So far, so good. So we left the Shepherd Market, went down to Little Ginnell's and walked down towards Marble Arch. And we had our bottomless brunch in the Hard Rock Hotel. Now, normally the bottomless brunch is £55 a person, but during the summer, there was a voucher on where, astonishingly, you could get this for £35 a couple. So I've obviously been keen of a bargain. We thought, this is all right. So Julie bought a voucher, and you get 90 minutes, get a 2-course meal in 90 minutes. So at this point, you would naturally think you're going to be catching the waitress's eye. They're not going to be a great rush to serve you. But fortunately, the opposite proved to be entirely and ultimately proved our undoing for our itinerary and our reputation and my health especially. So we sort of sat there and said to the girl, there was actually a Maltsmith's IPA on, but the 3 or 4 lagers. I said, have a pint ready, please. My wife and our friend's wife were drinking Prosecco. Now, every time they took a drink out the Prosecco, they came and topped the bottle up. And when your pint got to about 2/3 of the way down, another one just appeared. So I thought, this didn't expect to go like this. So gradually, 2 pints turned to 3, 3 pints turned to 4. After 5 pints, we'd been there about an hour and a half. We started saying, our time must be up now. Oh no, she says, don't worry about that. She says, you're having a nice time. So we had another couple of pints. So by this time, the beer consumption at 10 pints, and it's about 4 o'clock, and we're well beyond schedule. We booked in the Sky Garden at 4:45, so obviously that was a no-go.
Yeah.
So we decided, obviously, to curtail the day, so we jumped on Tube, came out of Charing Cross, and went to the American Bar in the Savoy. And I have to say, this was a nice experience, really, particularly if you've been sober. You went in, just go to the right past the Savoy Grill, met by a lovely lady who starts to be full at the minute, she says, but there'll be a table in about 35, 40 minutes. So that's great. She took our name and she said, you're welcome to sit in the public areas, or sit down here. Or she says, you know, there's a couple of pubs close by, which was bad advice. So we went to the coal hole, which was absolutely crammed, had another pint in there. So by the time we got the American Bar, I had 11 pints, so things weren't going to be good. So I perused the cocktail menu before. They've got a new head bartender there. It's the first female head bartender in 100 years. She's reinventing the cocktail bar. You have to say, first of all, the place itself is absolutely wonderful. It's kind of timelessly elegant. It runs like clockwork. The service is fantastic. Very friendly, not stuffy, not pretentious. I suppose the measure of those things is that, you know, if you sit in a place like that and you feel that hand of history on you, and it felt like that, you know, you can imagine Churchill bobbing in there with a few pints. And when the waitresses come, they actually come and sort of kneel down when they speak to you. So I've chosen a Moonraker cocktail, which was a mix of Powers Irish whiskey, Grand Marnier, chamomile, lemon. It was shaken, then topped up with Lauren Perry vintage champagne and stirred. It was £25 here.
No camera discount, Bruce. No camera discount.
So now until this stage, actually, it's very, as we all know, we got all the drink okay. Unfortunately, the combination of that cocktail to have 11 pints proved to be rather undoing. And there is an unwritten rule that when you go to these places, you sit there quietly, behave yourself. You don't ask people for pictures, do you? After 11 pints, that cocktail, as you can see by the picture here, I did manage to break one of the golden rules, but they were rather nice. Now, I have to say, at this stage, I don't remember.
Who is that, Bruce?
The waitress. Yeah, she's not familiar.
All right, okay.
Famous.
So she quite happily goes, and I have to say, they were done. But apparently, I remember nothing after this stage, apart from being sick on the train on the way home. But apparently the behaviour was not in keeping with the standards expected, I'm told by my wife. I think it's possibly exaggerating. We did go to a pub in Covent Garden, Nicholson's pub. I vaguely remember a great selection of beers, and we got the train home at 9 o'clock. After being so drunk, I led us to St Pancras and not King's Cross. We got the train with 4 minutes to spare. Yes, and about Retford time I was.
So, Bruce, was Christine drinking?
She was, but she only was drinking. They were drinking this prosecco that was getting. She has halves, doesn't she? And the prosecco was getting topped up, so it probably seemed like she'd, you know, wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And then so it was all a bit bad. So what would have been?
You were just a guzzling lager glutton then.
It does that bottomless brunch. I mean, they really should be banned.
Shame on you.
Outrageous. I mean, it was madness. We really thought that
mass-produced, gassy, fizzy, alco pop.
Yeah, well, it's an experience.
It wasn't yeah. And I have to say again, the Hard Rock Hotel, the staff were great. The place is really nice. It's
you
like
may as well sat in Tower Garden with a 24-bottle case of Beer de Muretti for 16 quid from Tesco's.
You're right. Oh no, but I mean, you know, I'd say that place, the place itself though, that's really nice. You know, it's like a huge sort of foyer feel to it. It's really spacious. Again, service was great. Those deals are still available on Travelzoo, actually. They're £17.50. They're an absolute bargain. And the music was low. And of course, you have some fantastic memorabilia there as well. So it was worth a visit. No, sadly, no Sky Garden, no Cheshire Cheese.
All right.
All ended rather badly.
No, and I think I've been the Grapes actually in Shepherd Market. I think we used to go there. And we used to go to Twickenham. And in fact, I've got a feeling that's where my wife rang me and said that she was expecting our eldest. I was sat in that window there that Bruce has said.
How strange.
Pub, yeah.
In the Grapes?
To get Zorros.
In the Grapes?
Yeah, in the Grapes.
Wow, fantastic.
There's a couple of lads that I used to play rugby with and you knew it and said it. And I remember just being a fantastic little, like you say, it's like a little square, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Really good pubs and quite busy. Like you say, you're kind of in a bit of a, off the main drag, so it's a bit of a place that people know about. And then Green Park, and then we just jump on the tube and go out towards Twickenham. So that was good, And then Nick, I know you've been, and obviously you're in Blackpool, and you're going to have a week in the lake, so you might have some Beery adventures next time round. And I think you just said you just a repeat of last week, and you had another little walk up Malton on Saturday, and visited your normal haunts and had a few again flights.
Yeah, the flight sat outside the New Malton, watched because somebody told me that the England rugby game started at 5:30. It was 4:30. It wasn't. It was 5:30. So watched a bit of the replay of the Italy v Argentina with the flight, and then Dale Saddle leg over in there, I think, was my favourite of those three. And then walked up to see Steve at the Old Malton Royal Oak. He's now putting a fourth hand pump on there. He's decided which his own Royal Oak beer is going to be. And I think he's gone with Hemsley Brewery. Yeah, we're looking forward to an additional hand pump being introduced there. Only problem then, of course, is that when you get a flight, you get 3 beers. Now, if he's got 4 hand pumps on, it makes you make the choice again. You've got to choose 3 out of 4 sort of thing. Because what I always normally do is have the 3 and then decide which is the best of the 3 on that particular night. So, but he had Half Moon on last night, which I ended up having the pint of. To be honest, I can't remember what else he had on. But yeah, once again, nice Saturday afternoon, 6, 7 different Yorkshire beers. Can't beat it.
Very good. So let's just quickly do a bit of quick beer news. Again, I think Bruce and I have sent a few of these to each other. So just one again, we'll talk about Wetherspoons. It will come up no doubt later on. They hit the press midweek, I think it was, just making the point that whilst their sales are quite good, their sales of cask are down by 30%. And that led to all these ideas that the old clientele is staying away. And actually, we mentioned this, and we discussed this on a couple of podcasts, and their cocktails are way up. So there's this idea that it's a slightly younger audience that's going to Wetherspoons now, which is interesting. And this link to that, actually, in St Helens, where I work, they're actually closing, Wetherspoons are closing one of there's actually 2. And this is actually a Lloyd's bar rather than a Wetherspoons traditional pub, but it's quite a big venue, and it's pretty central, and it's next to Nando's and the cinema. So it's always been quite popular. So I mean, they have got another more traditional Wetherspoons in the town as well, but they're closing it. And I've heard that they've closed a couple down.
It just seems, I mean, he's been closing his Lloyd's bar for the last 15, 20 years. Because I remember the one in Hull, down in the old town there, you know, he gave that up to another company. And so he wants to go back to, at one point he thought, like, let's try and get younger clientele in, put music and screens and stuff. But it seems he's going back to what he always wanted. He wanted more traditional type pubs. So, yeah.
Interesting. And I mentioned this last week, but I think you both, I think you picked it up. I said it was something that we'd talk about this week. And we mentioned that Brewdog were building a new bar next to Waterloo Station in London. And I also mentioned that Holt's Brewery in Manchester, they are building a new, or what they claim is the first airport microbrewery.
Nice.
New super terminal at Manchester Airport. So I'm not exactly sure when it'll be open. It's on work on it now. And that'll be interesting, really. So they've teamed up with somebody called the Restaurant Group and the Bridgewater Exchange Pub, which is what it should be called. And they claim it will be the venue for Europe's first airside only microbrewery. So let's see what they do there. They're talking about honey-based beer, obviously linked to the Manchester symbol, you know, the bee that became very prevalent following the arena bombings. So that'll be interesting to see that. And I'll come back to Holt's because Holt's is an interesting brewery, really. And we quite like Holt's beers, but you don't get them. They're very regional. You don't really find them apart from Manchester. And then I still haven't got any Guinness Zero. I'm still not tracked it down. But apparently Tesco's, this is really interesting. They are now selling 10 cans of normal Guinness, and they're throwing in an extra 2 zero Guinness cans as part of the deal. So you for your price of 10, which is £9 with a club card.
That's great, isn't it?
They throw you in 2 zeros, and you know, one of people said that's quite a good idea, isn't it? Actually,
it is, yeah.
You know, it's great. You can compare the taste. I think they're fairly confident that you know the taste is similar, and you reckon it is quite similar. Quite surprisingly. So I might have to get.
Well, it's not similar, but it's got a taste to it, which is a better taste than most of the alcohol-free beers that I've tried.
Yeah, and actually, if you have got your Tesco, it's £11 regular. It says it's £9, so you're getting 12 cans of Guinness for £9, which isn't bad actually for Christmas.
No, it isn't.
Quite like a Guinness at Christmas. So there we go. So as I said, Macclesfield is today's focus. So I don't think you guys have been kind of regular visitors to Macclesfield, have you?
I've never been. I've only ever been through it.
Obviously, it's on the West Coast main line, so you tend to go through it. It's a stop between Stoke and Stockport, then Manchester Piccadilly. And obviously, when we had a canal boat, obviously Macclesfield Canal goes through it. It's one of those towns where the road and the canal, the river and the railway all hug bottom of the valley, really. There's a very posh Italian furniture shop called La Riga Branchi, which everybody will know about if you've been through on the train. Nick, I don't think you've been to Mac either, have you?
I don't think so, no. The only thing I know Macclesfield is in Macclads.
It's been on the news recently because Robbie Savage now is a big cheese in the
well,
the
that was it when
club.
we used to support York City. Obviously, Macclesfield were always in the same league, weren't they?
Well, I think
they're
the manager today, Steve Watson got the sack today.
Yeah.
Their supporters always used to be a bit mental, like.
So, as I said, the plan was that we were going to go to the Macclesfield Food Festival, which is, like Macclesfield's quite a traditional town, and they have it all through the cobbled streets and up at the market square. And we'd booked some train tickets a couple of weeks beforehand. It was we went kind of mid-September, and as always, you get that nice little bit of an Indian summer. It was kind of a little treat for my birthday, really. And we were all happy going along. And then I just happened to keep checking in on Facebook, and then literally the last hour, I found that they just pulled it, and I still don't find out why they pulled it. So we booked the tickets anyway. So me and Mum said, "Oh, we'll go anyway." So we did. So it actually ended up being quite a nice day. So as I said before, it's great to go by train from Stoke because on Stoke Station, in the former first class waiting room, and I think since Virgin gave up the West Coast, and they seem to have kind of got rid of most of these first class waiting rooms. But thankfully for us, Titanic took over about 3 or 4 years ago, and this is one of their bod chains. So they have a kind of cafe bar as well as their more traditional pubs. They're about 8 or 9 now of these. I think really great small venues, and so you can get a drink. It's a bit of a funny place because there's actually, you can probably see it on the photo on the left hand side. There's a little gate halfway through it. Because one side is the station side, and Stoke's now a closed station most of the time. And the other side, it opens onto the kind of the street. So it's quite funny because you often have people having to talk over the barrier to each other as well. So we called in there. We got there fairly early. So we had about half an hour to wait for the train. It was very busy because Stoke City were playing Derby County, which is a bit of a local derby. So, but I haven't got a clue how all those people. We were there. It's quite quiet in the picture there, but there were a lot of people there. And of course, the East Midlands run the train from a Crewe via Stoke to Derby, and it's one of those buses on wheels. It's literally a one carriage, which also serves you to the racecourse. And there's many times I've been to the races where it just will not stop at some places because it's absolutely rammed. So God knows how they all got on. And then the other thing was on the other platform, it was full of Manchester City fans because they were playing Southampton. And I said to my missus, "Oh, there might be a few Southampton fans," because we got on the cross country. And actually, you can get a train all the way from Stoke to Southampton. I've used it a few times, actually. But it wasn't full of Southampton fans. It was full of Man City fans from Southampton and from Bristol and from Birmingham, as always. Very few Manchester City fans come from Manchester. So we got in there. Limited range of beer, actually. Again, it was mid-September, so it had to be closed for most of COVID because it is such a small venue, really. So it's only been open a couple of weeks. So I would normally have a White Star now, but I settled for an Iceberg, which is my other one. Nick, I know you quite like the Iceberg. And I say it was quite lively on that day as well. So we got on the train, and it's great for us because it's only 14 minutes on the West Coast line to Stoke-on-Trent, from Stoke-on-Trent. Macclesfield station is fairly central. It's kind of the bottom of that valley, a bit like Sheffield, really. And all the main town is up in front of you. And there are actually 3 pubs literally outside of the railway station. So Macc's a great place to go to have some beers and come back. Obviously quite dominated by Robinson's because that's probably the Stockport brewery, and Holt's as well. I done no planning really, and literally just sat on the train and said, right, where am I going to go? There was only one place that I'd already kind of planned to go into anyway, as well as looking at the food festival. So within literally a spit from the front of the station, there is the Joseph Holt's have the Old Mill Stone, which is next to the Nag's Head, which is that's a Robinson's pub, and then on the other side is the Queen's Hotel as well. And they all get a fairly good write-up actually in Watts pub. Unfortunately, we didn't actually visit any of them. I think a couple were probably closed on an early Saturday, but one was open. There were quite a few people sat outside the Nags actually when we came back down again. And again, the Nags is interesting because Macclesfield, a bit like Whitby, has a set of stairs that go up to the church. And the church pretty much dominates Macclesfield town centre. I think there are 108 steps up there. So again, those on YouTube, I took a picture of these said steps. And I say Macclesfield was dominated. I've got a picture somewhere by a big church, which I'll perhaps come back to that in a minute, and that dominates the skyline. So we mentioned Holt's. Holt's again a very regional brewery, obviously long history in Manchester. 1849 when they were established, and they tend to do miles and bitters. But it's really interesting that they're now looking at that microbrewery in Manchester Airport. So that's a story. I know something that you view Manchester quite a bit, don't you? When you're flying off places, so might look out for that as well. So the only place I'd actually planned to go to was somewhere called the Treacle Tap, and this is one of these little micro bars, and it's about 3 minutes walk from the station. And this is, I've done a bit of pre-reading. Again, it had only recently reopened because again, it's a very small venue. It's a former saddlery shop, so it had only been open a couple of weeks. If you remember, think back to kind of whenever pubs fully opened, in July, and then quite a few didn't. And I've got to say, if you ever go to Macclesfield, this is a must visit. This was an absolutely cracking little place. Really good beer choice. Really nice laid out. It was quite quiet on a Saturday, kind of early Saturday lunchtime. They looked like they do fantastic pies. We kind of we
outside the window.
Yeah, and actually a couple of lads crossed their hands on it, and they look really really nice. Now there's a couple of these. They're owned by somebody called the Beer Parlours. There's also another sister micro bar in Congleton, which again is kind of on the Cheshire Staffordshire border. But I've got that to kind of go there, and that's in the former toy store that was in Congleton High Street as well. So Treacle Tap because one of the weird things, I always thought Macclesfield was a silk town, and obviously the football club were called the Silk Men. But actually, apparently, it's more famous for treacle, and its local nickname is Treacle Town. Now that's a bit whatever the word is, because Nuneaton also claim that they are Treacle Town as well. And I'd already picked at it. I knew that. So we've been Nuneaton a few times, and by all accounts, it is one of these myths that there was many moons ago a horse-drawn wagon full of treacle tipped over, and treacle ran down the streets, and the people of Macclesfield were able to scoop it up and live, heartily on treacle for many weeks. So there we go. So they have a treacle market up in the main square, and obviously quite a lot of local business use Treacle Town Pie Company there. I got that with a Bruce, but he's just shot off, so we won't see that. So that's why it's called Treacle Tap. So got a couple of pictures here just to kind of show you what it was like inside. Actually, it's just roomy. It's not bad. The bar's towards the back there. Again, usual eclectic mix of tables and chairs and things. As you can see there was quite a good beer range on, 3 cask beers, and then whatever is there, 7, 8 keg beers as well. Roosters they had on, Fortitude and Thornbridge Jaipur. Went anywhere that has that on cask isn't too bad. Price is not bad, $3.50 a pint for Roosters. The Jaipur obviously a bit more expensive at £4.30 a pint, but obviously that's knocking on 6%. So it was a great bar. Again, nice bar staff. I think I mentioned that I got excited because I'd seen there were a couple of the beer mags, but they were quite old ones, but still had quite a nice time reading them through. A little bit disappointed I was drinking Roosters because obviously we've been to Roosters not that long, have we, to the brewery, the brewery tap, but it was on good form. And then the other beer actually was the Bristol Street Brewing beer. That was quite nice as well. That was more of a autumnal type bitter, and that was very, very nice. So definitely recommend if you're in Macclesfield, and certainly if you use the train station, take a trip to the Treacle Tap. Really, really nice. And you'd be all right there, Nick. Choice of 3 cask beers.
I like the Blackboard.
Yeah, it was good. And
I think the thing is, possibly in a place like Macclesfield as well, what used to be retail property is probably, closed down because, people aren't buying on the high street anymore. So, I'm not, I would still much prefer to go into a traditional pub. But in terms of people who've got a desire to try and run their own bar, the fact they can basically rent a retail outlet for a lot cheaper than a traditional pub, fair play, get a go. And by doing that, they can keep the price down as well. So price is there.
And actually, that's what emerged in the afternoon, because again, after we asked a couple of places, we asked the guys at the bar there where they would recommend, and they basically said there's actually quite a few similar type of, as you just said there, Nick, little former shops that have been converted into bars. So that became the theme of the afternoon, and we spent the next couple of hours doing a little bit of shopping, but we spent the next couple of hours actually going around these converted bars.
See, the thing is with retail units, often upstairs have already been rented out anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas you get Treacle Pub. Once upon a time, the Treacle Pub would have rooms upstairs, and then probably the landlord or the staff would live up there. So if you want to rent a Treacle Pub that's closed down now, it's still the full building.
Yeah.
Whereas a retail unit, you probably only just look at the ground floor. So in terms of what your rent's going to cost you, it's going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah. So although we were tempted by the pies, we decided that we'd actually go and try and find some lunch. Again, the other thing about Macclesfield is a lot of little independent cafes and restaurants as well. So we were thinking about some tapas, but unfortunately, again, most of the tapas, well, the couple places we tried actually closed at lunchtime because again, it was in that kind of strange time. There was a couple places open, but we came across this place called the Salt Bar, which looked quite interesting. It's on the bottom of kind of Macclesfield's famous Cobbley Street, which I'll show you some pictures of in a minute. And it's got a very good right to TripAdvisor. They do sell beer. So we said that we'd pop into the Salt Bar. We just turned up on spec, and thankfully they did have a table. They were quite busy. I think we got the last table that was free. So this was a Scandinavian themed kind of whatever bistro bar, just food and drink. So I'd say this is the street that it's on. This is called Church Street, and this goes all the way. If you're looking at if you're on YouTube, if you're looking down that street at the bottom there to the left, as you get in that corner, you can see the railway station in front of you, and those three pubs we just mentioned. And this then goes up to the kind of the town square where the town hall is, and also the church, which I think dominates Macclesfield, which is where it gets its name from. And there it is. That's Church Street, looking up towards the church itself. And Macclesfield is quite an old kind of market town, so there's no high-rise buildings. It is quite a nice little, quite a bit like Beverley, I guess, perhaps without the Minster, but that type of feel to it as well. And the Salt Bar is just on the bottom on the right there. But there's also one or two other good places on here, which again we will come back to. So Salt Bar was very nice. It was Scandinavian, so we went for the smorgasbord, which was actually quite nice, about 16, 17 quid, but it was quite nice, really, quite a nice collection. And the beer they were serving, it was, well, not surprisingly, Swedish. So I had a pint of backyard, what was the beer that we had there? I think it was called something like Headbanger or something. And it was on keg, but actually, it wasn't bad. It was okay, and again, prices were quite nice. So again, definitely recommend the Salt Bar if you like Scandinavian food, which is
looks all like vegetables. Was there any meat?
There was some beef down here. There was chicken. There was herrings, and then there was quite a lot of kind of pickled veggies, which obviously is what you get from Scandinavian food, but definitely worth a look in. So as you carry up Church Street, you end up here. And this is kind of a nice little square. The top of the church is just on the corner, on to the left of the main town hall there. This is where they have the Treacle Market, which has a different theme most days of the week. And as you can see, the weather was very, very nice. So we then headed to the 5 Clouds Tap and Bottle. This had a very extensive outdoor seating area. In fact, and so popular, we couldn't actually get a seat outside. So actually, we ended up sitting inside in that window there. And the next one, which one, I think you can see the old Char place. I missed it off the picture here. There's also another bar called the Beer Vault, which is on the corner, which again is a very similar kind of craft bar, bottle shop that also does cask and keg beer. And they've managed to persuade the town council to have all this big seating area out the front there. So I bet there was probably 150 people sat outside enjoying September sun.
Why not?
So very nice, yeah. So I've not heard.
As long as people can walk up and down the high street.
Yeah, I've not heard about Five Clouds Brewery before, so it was a new one for me. Again, Nick, they had a nice blackboard for yourself there. Again, they did have, I think they had only one cask on, and then the rest of it was mainly on keg. Again, prices were not too bad. $3.60 for a pint. I mean, on that day, although I think that's a 2/3 of 360, isn't it? But it was 6.5%. So it was a bit of a crafty bar, so maybe not quite nicks up the Nick Street. But as you say, we've got a very nice table just inside there. I say it was lovely outside. In fact, it's probably too hot outside. And I couldn't decide, so I had a couple of those cloudy IPAs. That was very
cloudy.
Nice. So I say you've got the choice of
Lazy Brewing.
5 Clouds there, and then I said that the beer vault, is just in the corner as well. So that was a really nice, again, inside, quite minimal inside, but again got very busy as well. And then going back down Church Street. So again, just for Bruce's Bruce has come back with us now. So I said, Bruce, this is kind of the famous Macc Street. It's called Church
that looks
Street.
lovely, doesn't it?
It starts at the railway station to the left and it ends up at the church at the top. And when you get the church, you also come out into the square there, which is very nice. And so there were 2 bars on the square, which are really good. And then back down.
Thanks, John. I'll just see me guest out.
And then back down Church Street is somewhere called the Wetland Bar. And again, this was simply being in the five Clouds. Asked the guys was there anywhere else we should go to, and they said go to the Wetland Bar. So this again is fairly new. It's on that Church Street, so I think it was, I don't know what it was. It was a former shop of some description. This was absolutely rammed on a Saturday afternoon, so it was probably about 3 o'clock when we went in here. And you can't really tell, it's quite dark inside.
Peak time for drinking though on a Saturday,
it was pretty full. It was pretty full. Again, quite a range of beer on. I ended up drinking Ossic beer, would you believe, in Macclesfield, in a Beartown brewery glass.
That's a Vickers pint, isn't it? Got a nice white collar on it.
Yeah, it was very, very frothy. So I don't know whether it was the heat that was affecting it. But yeah, they're really nice. Again, a great place, great hum to it. There's an upstairs bit, there was an outdoor bit, they do music. But again, a really interesting bar. Again, lots of different people who were in there. There were some lads obviously on a bit of a crawl, but then lots of couples, or quite a few older people as well. Again,
they didn't have funnels and plastic bottles, did they?
No. Drinking a range of there was ciders, there was keg, and then I said there was a couple of custom as well.
How busy do you think they are during the week? Because I mean, it's for a little town, some cracking booths there, isn't there?
I think they do a lot of kind of coffee as well. I think they have that clientele who come in for a coffee as well, and I know Phil had a couple of coffees in some of these places as well. And again, there's a little hint there for Bruce on the left-hand side of that picture, which I'm going to come back shortly. So guess what that is as well. So that was really good, and another great little micro bar. And yes, next door to the wet leg is Mr. Carter's and Co. Traditional family butchers and pie makers. And I managed, there was just a couple of pork pies left in the window, which we find something on the train on the way home to soak a little bit more beer up. So Bruce, everything's catered for you there.
Yeah.
Really
look next door, Bruce. There's ladies for sale in the bakery.
that looked
like Amsterdam, isn't it?
That looked really nice as well. Actually, the bakery next door. And I say, Macclesfield's one of those towns that's full of independence, and it is. It's not. They don't just say that, but it is. There's loads of nice little cafe bars. There's loads of independent shops and butchers, and I say some really, really good micro pubs. And then the ones that we didn't actually get to, we actually walked past this place. I think it was just opening. This is Red Willow. Red Willow is another kind of local brewery. And in fact, I've just found out they've just bought the Edinburgh Woolen Mill in Leek, and they're going to convert that into another bar. They've also got a fantastic in Leek. And they've also, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, me and Phil, we went to another new tap they've got, which is in Buxton, which is in the former NatWest Bank. I remember I showed you a picture where we were in the bank manager's office having a beer. Which again is another nice venue as well. Nick, I think we drank some Red Willow beer in Malton, if I remember rightly. I think when we went to the food festival, I think maybe at the gin place we were drinking Red Willow. So again, they're a fairly newish brewery that are kind of on the up really. So so this week we didn't actually get to go in here. So this will be another one if you were wanting to come to Macc. Again, try another kind of brewery tap, which is really good as well. And again, there are 4 breweries now in Macclesfield. Probably Storm Brewing is the one that probably people may have heard of because they've been around for quite a while. Happy Valley Brewery, Red Willow just mentioned, and Five Clouds, which is the tap where we sat in the window there. So again, quite a thriving beer scene in Macclesfield, and obviously with Stockport and Robinsons, etc., close by.
How many empty shops was there, Michael?
Very few actually in Macclesfield, and it's quite a nice compact town centre. I would say there is a bit of a shopping arcade centre, and that there was a couple of empty units in there. I think they just lost Debenhams because that was quite a big thing there. But no, and it was quite buzzing for a Saturday afternoon as well. There's a lot of people out, and a market as well, a really good market. So very nice. So I don't want to let you both down. So I didn't manage to get here, but there is again a very interesting Wetherspoons in Macclesfield.
Yeah, there is,
and that's called the Society Rooms. And this is the former home of the Macclesfield Useful Knowledge Society, would you believe, which was established in the 19th century. Again, Macclesfield was famous for silk weaving, again to do with the water and the canal. And again, it's a bit like the York story, really. The mill owners were very both entrepreneurial, but also were quite liberal and wanted to make sure that the working people had an option to education. So this is somewhere where you could go along to this building, and you could arts class, become a school of design, become a technical school, and the vicarage next door as well has all been made into quite a nice Wetherspoons, as you understand. Again, we didn't get in there on that visit because we were mainly doing the micros, but it looks quite a nice place. I'm sure you get the normal. And then I even found a Sam Smith's pub, a little bit out of the town, but there is the Whipping Stocks Inn, which again gets its name from where
good size, isn't it? That
drag the do not gooders of Macclesfield. I always thought this was a Robinson's pub because it's got that feel around it. And obviously Robinsons have a lot of these kind of pubs in Cheshire, but no, this is a proper old Sam Smith's pub, just on the edge of Macclesfield. So you two will be very happy because again, I could get you to Wetherspoons and I get you to a Sam
looks like they probably have rooms there, do they?
I think they do, yeah, up in that main
size of building.
Well. So very nice. So a great afternoon in Macclesfield. I say, we had 4 or 5 pints, very nice lunch in the Salt Bar, and then we headed back to Stoke. And for good measures, and we've done one craft bar in Stoke. I said to my missus, right, we've driven past this place loads of times. So in the Stoke town centre, which is a bit of a weird place because Hanley is the main kind of shopping CBD of Stoke-on-Trent, and unfortunately the town that gave the place its name is now a little bit of a kind of a forgotten kind of whatever, slightly derelict kind of place. They're doing quite a lot of work on the Spode pottery work, which is going to be interesting. And in fact, there's a nice bar that's set up there. But this was a former Timpson's, and this is on the kind of main street that goes through Stoke. There's a Wetherspoons again, just down the road from here, literally kind of 4 or 5 shops down. And this is Brew, and this again is a very small place that again, unfortunately, had to shut for most of the pandemic, but again, it recently reopened. So we thought, well, tell what, we walked back from the station. It's about 10 minutes from Stoke Station. On that 10 minutes, you walk past a really good Jules's pub next to the Civic Centre, and what was a Titanic pub, but now actually just changed, although they're still serving Titanic beers. And this is Brew. So again, this is another little former shop, which is quite an eclectic bar. As you can see, I did wonder whether they must have known somebody who was a kitchen fitter, because again, for those on YouTube, the bar is pretty much made up of odd kitchen cupboard doors, and even in the middle of the bar, the top half of a bloody front door still has the letterbox and the door knocker on it. So very eclectic bar. Again, it was absolutely rammed at about 5:30 on a Saturday afternoon, which was interesting. The football hadn't come back yet. Again, really, really nice landlady who spent quite a lot of time chatting to us. And again, she'd never been to Macclesfield. And again, when I mentioned that we've been through quite a few micro bars, she was really interested. She, as you can see there, she's also got a little thing about gin and about vodka. So there were probably more gins than I've seen in most bars. And on the right-hand side there, all those are different vodkas. And she was very keen to try and get us a sample, some of the more obscure vodkas. But again, there were, as you can see there were 2 cask beers on. And there was again 2 or 3 keg beers on as well, so quite a nice little variation actually. I had a 6 Towns beer, which again is a fairly small and recently opened brewery in Stoke-on-Trent. Again, I'd never had their beer before, so that was quite nice. And yeah, really, just another place, another tick box, another place that was doing really well on a Saturday afternoon, so small and really good. See these places open. So again, Macclesfield, definitely worth a visit. If you've got a couple of hours, that's probably all you need. Again, everything was in about a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk max from the railway station. And obviously then if you were driving, you've got the main car parks are down there as well. I say it's about 15 minutes from Manchester on the train. And similarly, if you're coming up from the south, 15 minutes from Stoke-on-Trent. So that'll be what, about 45 minutes from something like Birmingham. So again, well worth getting off the train. It is an open station in Macclesfield, so you could probably jump off if you've got a return ticket, say from Manchester somewhere, or you want to break your journey. Would be great, yeah. If you've got an hour or so, you're heading back to Manchester, but you've got a bit of time. Have an hour in Mac. There's trains literally every 20 minutes that go up north or south. Obviously, it's on the and you've got all of them. You've got West Coast, you've got cross country, you've got northern. and they all go through Macclesfield. So there's loads of trains stopping very regularly. So definitely worth a little visit. So I think that's about it for this episode. So just
before, I just remember something talking about Sam Smith's and going back to Bay News. Have you seen Bruce? It was in the press about his advertising now for staff or for managers for his 8 pubs around York that are closed.
Aye, but this is really old news, and the evening press.
Hang on.
Let's just ask Mike. We keep recycling this news. Those pubs have been advertised for years. And Mike Laycock in the evening press, when he's running sorts of stories, he goes on Gumtree, sees which pubs get advertised, and goes, hopes that Village Pub will reopen.
And that's what I'm saying, Bruce, though. So I was going to ask Mike, if you're a owner of a multi-business pub chain, where would you advertise for staff? I would suggest you'd advertise the Morning Advertiser, the Caterer magazine, even speak to you guys. No, Humphrey decides to advertise for reputable pub managers on Gumtree. So, you know, if you want to buy a second-hand bike that's been nicked or a sofa, but why would you advertise for staff on Gumtree, not through a legitimate, you know, like the Caterer or the Morning Advertiser place like that?
You've got to pay a lot of money for that, them places.
Beggars believe.
He's probably got a free pass for one of them weekends where you can put them up for free. So interesting.
Now, I was in a Sam Smith's pub last night. I went to one of the villages, and the landlord, they were saying that he's got 40 couples going through training now. So he's got about 90 pubs closed around the country. So he's got about 40 couples going through training. So hopefully a lot of them will reopen. I mean, around here it's desperate. We've got Appleton Roebuck closed. We've got Bolton Percy, Rufforth, loads of them. But I have to say, I was in there today to take Evie for a vaccine because there's no vaccines there in York. So we walked by the Marquis of Granby, which is a really historic, timeless Sam Smith's pub. And that, I didn't realise it's a kind of Nesbitt's forgotten pub. That's closed as well now. It looked like it'd been closed for years. But
Bruce, how many vaccines is Evie having? Because you were taking her for a vaccine last week, weren't you?
Yeah, didn't have any though.
No, she couldn't. They've had no vaccines in York. So our Tesco's our site. So she was due to have 2 walking appointments. Have had no vaccine.
Right.
But today at Knaresborough, it was pretty bad because, I mean, we had a firm slot for her, but anybody who was walking was being sent away. And there were people coming as far as Pickering in Scarborough that took the kids to Knaresborough to get the vaccine. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a fair old journey, that, isn't it?
And again, it's one of those things that's just beginning it because people are thinking, oh, you're all been done at schools, and it's not happening. Like you said, there's just no vaccines anywhere.
That's why we've done.
I'm hearing the same about flu as well now. I know my missus, she's been twice on a slot for a flu vaccine, and turned up twice now with a booked appointment. They said, "Oh, we haven't got any vaccines. We can't do it." So
send Boris Johnson a bill then.
Well, he's too busy saving the world, isn't he, and opening coal mines, but not opening a coal mine.
I must admit, when you were down in London the other day, like I know we were saying last week when Nick had been there, it felt, I mean, down in London, things felt very much back to normal. And today, for a Sunday night, we came back from Knaresborough about 4:30, and York, the trains were packed, the train station was heaving with people being away. Yeah. You kind of think there's going to be some degree of inevitability about what's going to come next.
Yeah, they reckon, all the papers today reckon that the long-term planning says that we seem to be on a decline, and we've now had a steady decline since September. So I know in where I work, St Helens is still number 1, I think, in the country at the moment. Our rate 670 out of 100,000. And it's 10 to 14-year-olds that's where the spike is at the moment. All people are getting.
I'm afraid I didn't see any masks on Blackpool seafront this evening.
Yeah, and I read somewhere today that somebody had gone to one of the hospitals in Manchester where they've got a COVID tent outside and said it was full. So it was full of patients coming in, and again, the slightly scary thing is a lot of these people have been double jabbed, or actually had COVID previously, and they reckon this new variant. So again, we'll have to wait and see. Like you say, the pubs I've been in, very limited. I think the only track and trace now is when you've got to log into their Wi-Fi. That's the only time you get asked to do any track and trace, isn't it, these days? There is still the odd sanitizer as you walk in, but that's pretty much it, really. And again, Mellard's, I mentioned Mellard, they've just gone back to bar service this week, actually. They kept on with the table service, but actually they said this weekend they were going back to bar service. And certainly most pubs I've been in recently, it was bar service. So yeah, we'll see how we go, really. So I think that's going to be it for a couple of weeks, because we are planning our Vaccinated. There's Evie, all vaccinated. We're planning our little trip, which now is.
Why is she glowing orange?
and wait for the Microsoft to start bubbling in her. So we're planning a bit more of a Christmas little ramble now, probably. So we had planned towards the end of November that we're probably going to end up going to Sheffield. We're going to push that probably back into the first week in December. So
We've pushed it back. No,
all right. Well, I had a better offer to go back to the rugby club reunion. So we're looking
Where's the reunion at? Where's the reunion
it's
at?
back at just the rugby club. There's a game on, so the president's got we have a dinner before we play, or before they
just roll around in dirt, bros. Don't matter where they are, really, does it?
Drink some nice beers. So the
You
plan is
after you play, surely.
No, we don't play. We watch the first team play.
Oh,
so
right.
you get there at it's an early start. You get there at 12. You have lunch at 12:30. 3-course lunch, very nice, and then you go and watch the first team play, and then have some more beers. So we're going to do that the first week of December. So we can still rear Bruce in, so we have to visit every hovel between York and the bottom end of South Yorkshire. So the plan is we're still going to meet in Sheffield, and we're still going to pick 3 pubs each. I've been looking. I've got a couple of really nice ones actually that I'm hoping will be very good. Although I have been reading more about Abbeydale, and quite a few of the Sheffield people who do their various podcasts and beer saying Abbeydale Road is a fantastic beer run now. And I think, well, Nick, it was it when you were at? It was when you're
Abbeydale and Collegiate as well.
Cracking pubs down Abbeydale. So that's still the plan.
Seemed like a good area.
Say again, Bruce.
Healy looked like some very good area.
Yeah, well, that's where I lived up there. Yeah. Richards Road.
There's a lot of choice in there. I mean, and Callum Island's got pubs literally every 10 yards.
So we don't need to go to Chesterfield.
No, or Dronfield.
Or Bradfield.
Bradfield, yeah. So that's the plan. So we'll probably do the next podcast. Will be hopefully the 3 of us in the flesh, drinking a few beers around Sheffield. So that'll be in a couple of weeks' time. So, and then we'll probably do a Christmassy special. And hopefully at some point I'll be up in Yorkshire as well. So we can probably get together probably in Twixmas like we normally do. I think we need to revive up the traditional Twixmas. Us 3 wandering around trying to find pubs open on the day after Boxing Day, and then trying to find somewhere that's got some food left the day after Boxing Day, which is normally a good laugh. And hopefully some nice cracking pubs like Bruce showed us there with a lovely fire in there. So cheers, guys. Nick, have a nice week in the lakes. So we'll expect some little updates on how you've gone on in the lakes, and you can go to Wetherspoons now and see what that's like in Blackpool. I'm sure they'll have
might just go to the corner flag. Yeah, see how we go.
You see, Wetherspoons in Tunbridge Wells. That looks amazing, doesn't it?
Oh, I've been to that one. It's quite nice, actually. Yeah,
is that Royal Wetherspoons?
Supposed to be the most whatever the word is, spectacular, isn't it? It's quite nice. Although, as you said, Bruce, the one in Harrogate takes and beats.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah,
that's pretty nice as well.
Well, if you look up rather than down, because carpet's pretty manky, but up's still nice.
Good. And that one in St Albans, we've been in, it's quite nice as well, isn't it? In that Tithe bar, that's quite nice.
Yeah,
right,
in terms of the historic building.
Have a good week, and we'll catch up in a couple of weeks' time.
Excellent.
See you soon.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Sit there.